how do they bifurcate their brains into thinking it's okay to do it to a conservative, but only the threat of it happening to them finally wakes them up to the importance of freedom of speech?
Well, the irony is rich. What Musk is proposing is nothing extraordinary. He just believes in free speech. Now, what does free speech mean? It means that you're not free unless you have the right to express yourself. It means you're not free unless you can say what you think. He is not telling the wokers that they can't express their opinion on Twitter. What he is saying to the wokers, the ones who run Twitter, you can't censor points of view that you disagree with. That's the way America works. That has not been the way that Twitter has worked. And I think it's very refreshing.
Let me ask you, should there be, obviously you got to have a limit. No, nobody should be able to make a physical threat against somebody.
Of course, no hate speech.
You can't make a physical threat. That's illegal anyway. The question is, what do you do if you really want to have a freedom of speech platform? I mean, any reasonable person with a conscience and a soul deplores real racism and deplores real anti-Semitism. Do you let those people say what they want and assume that the free market will just kind of weed them out and people won't pay attention to them? Or should there be some standards? That gets a little more complicated.
Well, you shouldn't allow hate speech, but you got to trust Americans. You got to trust people to be able to think for themselves.
Isn't it interesting how they want you to speak truth to power, but God forbid you happen to name those in power, or show their early life section on Wikipedia, or point out certain connections of people in power, or show the history of a pattern of behavior that this people seems to follow, or criticize those specific people in power. That crosses a line. That's hate speech. If you do that, then Hannity turns into the basic leftist of 10 years ago, even adopting the same language they do. Do not criticize the tribe. That's hate speech and racism and anti-Semitism. How convenient. There does seem to be a phenomenon where you can criticize a group in very vague terms and be okay, but the more precise you get, the more trouble you get in. Comedian Mark Normand has a joke that anybody can say, "Ugh, I hate people." Everybody knows what they mean. But if they say, "Ugh, I hate Puerto Ricans," now you're in trouble. I've heard the same for kids. The more specific you get, the more you get in trouble. Notice how this train of thought gets worse and worse. I like kids. I like little boys. I like little boys with nice curly hair. See, now we're getting into creepy and unacceptable behavior. And the same is true with the tribe. Everybody knows that politicians are corrupt liars, and everybody hates politicians. But if you get a bit too specific with that hate, well, then we have a problem. Hannity says any reasonable person with a conscience and a soul deplores real racism and real anti-Semitism. So do you just let those people say what they want and assume the free market will just weed those people out? It's literally that meme of the guy having to choose between two buttons. On the one hand, the meaningless, empty, bumper sticker slogans of the right has been fight for free speech. But then on the other hand, we can't just have people saying whatever they want, pointing out the obvious and true. My God, where would that lead us? And as always, the most basic Republican thing to do, Sean Hannity does right there at the start to remind us that the lefts are hypocrites, while completely missing that he himself is a hypocrite. By John Kennedy standards, Sean Hannity doesn't want free speech. Pretty much instantly, Sean instinctively knows where his bread is buttered at and leaves the free speech discussion in the dust. To quote former ACLU head Ira Glazer, when people say they want to ban hate speech, what they mean is they want to ban the speech that they hate. So, if we were to ask Sean Hannity the number one rule in politics, what would it be, Sean?
1, never say anything bad about the Jews.